Dear students, hope you are well during the COVID-19 pandemic. Yes, no doubt we are passing tough and hard times, but if we pass our times only in idleness and nothingness, then gloomy minds may befall upon us. For that reason, following the instructions of our respected principal of Dhaka College, Professor Nihal Ahmed, I am here to deliver an online class in front of you. I expect these virtual classes will be some drops of achievements during the period when there is no classroom classes. Today my class is with honors first year students, and my prescribed topic is the poem The Patriot by Robert Browning. Before going to start the class, let us have a glance to the whiteboard. There is the points written on the board which will be discussed. So let us start the discussion. The Patriot is a brilliant piece of, first of all, about the poem. The Patriot is a brilliant piece of dramatic verse written by the famous Victorian poet and playwright Robert Browning. Robert Browning is one of the most eminent and widely celebrated poets of Victorian period. He is well known for his dramatic monologues. In this very poem, Browning talks about patriotism, politics, religious faith, first reality of the leaders who are illuminated with true patriotic zeal and also betrayed by the fickle-minded people. In the poem, the first two stanzas introduce the conditions of the first of this patriot. The third stanza reveals how and why the conditions changed. Fourth and fifth stanza contrast the past with the present, and sixth and last stanza expresses the poet's optimistic acceptance of his condition. The Patriot was warmly welcomed home by crowds of people at the very beginning of the poem. People gave him a grand reception and decorated his paths with roses and myrtles. He was glorified by the people because of his heroic deeds. There was an immense gratitude in their sentiment. He was given great honor and respect. But after 1 year, the reaction of the common people is drastically opposite. There is only hatred and disgrace in their attitude. The Patriot has lost all love, respect, and favor of his people. He is overwhelmed with utter humiliation. He is taken to the scaffold to be hanged. About the speaker, let us know who is the speaker of the poem. As the Patriot is a monologue, so the Patriot himself is the speaker of the poem. He narrates his tale to us how he was welcomed by his townspeople 1 year ago, and how he is now taken to the scaffold to be executed publicly. The Patriot is a harsh critic on public sentiment and morality. Rhyme scheme of Patriot. The Patriot had 6 stanzas of 5 lines each. The poem is not based on strict meter. The poem has clear rhyme scheme of A, B, A, B, A, which is carried and maintained throughout all the stanzas of the poem. Let us discuss the first stanza. The 5 lines of the first stanza. The last word of the first line, way, rhymes with the last word of the third line, sway, and the last word of the fifth line, day. So, way, sway, day can be noted as rhyming a. And the last word of the second line, mad, rhymes with the last word of the fourth line, had. So it is noted as B. So the rhyming scheme is A, B, A, B, A. Some archaic words like luck, trout, dust are noticeable, and these words enhance the sentiment of the poem. Title, subtitle, title and subtitle. The poem Patriot revolves around the story of the life of a patriot. From the beginning to the end, the poem has an orderly sequence of the life story of the patriot. Hence, the title is apt and justified. The poem also has a subtitle, though subtitle is not given to the text. The subtitle of the poem is An Old Story. This title, the subtitle or subheading, An Old Story, is much like the title of a novel. The subtitle supports the idea that Browning designed the poem to be read as a story. The story is the rise and fall of public heroes. This subtitle has also universal appeal because this story, the rise and fall of public heroes. The story is not limited within any place, any nation, any country, or any time. We can give an example of Socrates. Socrates was also an worshipped philosopher, but finally he was given death sentence by poisoning. Theme. The theme of the main theme of the poem is the rise and fall of fortune and glory. The world is a dynamic, fickle, and transient place. Here the opinion of people changes rapidly. History says worshipped heroes can be misunderstood and humiliated. Glory and fortune do not last forever. The poem also suggests that good deeds are not often rewarded and appreciated in this world. Tone. The poem begins with a retrospective tone as the first 2 stanzas are in past tense. In the very beginning, the tone is euphoric, which conveys the extent of joy of the celebration of the patriot's achievement. Then the tone shifts from happy to irony in the first stanza, and then it fills with agony, which we find in 4th and 5th stanza. So there is also variation of tone in this poem. Figures of speech used in Patriot. I think The poem The Patriot is replete with different kinds of figures of speech, and these figures of speech enriches the appeal of the poem and also the sentiment of the poem. First of all, we can say the uses of alliteration. In the first stanza, we find roses, roses, myrtle mixed. Second stanza, crowd and cries. And last or final stanza, dropped down dead. So there are lots of uses of alliteration. Metaphor is another figures of speech which Browning has used. As for example, in the first stanza, he has used roses. Roses stand for people's love and affection. Sun stands for glory, power, huge or titanic task too difficult to be performed. And harvest means dates, reaping. Here one thing I wanna mention, that is rain also metamorphosed here. Rain is a blessing of nature, but in this poem rain is supposed to be the cry or inner mind of the patriot himself. Imagery, uses of imagery. Browning uses many visual and auditory images in this poem. The poem begins with an image of the past where the patriot is welcomed with roses and myrtles. Roses is the symbol of color, the image of color, beauty. Then it appeals the senses of smell or essence. Myrtle is very scented lips. Images used in this poem very frequently. The old walls rocking, the church spires flaming, the flaming red colors, flaming church spires, the air breaking into mist. The poem is replete with many uses of images. And we also find irony. I think the from the beginning to the end, the poem is an irony. The irony of the acceptance of a national hero and the humiliation of the hero or misunderstanding him. Juxtaposition. Here we find many juxtapositions or contrast. Juxtapositions are contrast of past with present. Roses, contrast with stones. Crowded rooftops with empty rooftops. Hero, contrast with traitor. The hero, the patriot, was finally considered or misunderstood by the mob as a traitor. And entrance with exit. Browning's philosophy of life. Browning's philosophy of life we find in the poem in the final stanza. In the final stanza, the patriot consoles himself that God will reward him in the afterworld for his service to the nation. Browning's philosophy is we also find in his another poem, Pippa Passes, a line sung by a little Italian girl, Pippa. God is in his heaven. All is right with the world. So Browning's optimistic or religious faith that God, though human beings are unjust, God is just. God's judgment is just. If any person is not rewarded or deprived in this world, God must reward him afterward. So, by thinking so, he consoles himself, saying that he is safer so. Form or style. The Patriot is a celebrated dramatic monologue, and it is a dramatic monologue, and then story. The Patriot narrates the story in a sequential way. What dramatic monologue is and how the Patriot is a dramatic monologue, we will have another class next day. So students, no more today. Stay home, stay safe, and boost your immunity. Allah Hafiz.